You feel it, don't you? That odd tension where a playoff week can swing before the first snap even happens. And nobody wants to be the one to say it out loud. There's one invisible factor that can slide into the story at Gillette without ever landing on a stat sheet. There's a draft name getting penciled in for New England that actually fits the football problem, not just the message board fantasy. There's a handful of quiet depth moves that matter when bodies are beat up, and one snap turns into 2, then 3, then you're asking guys to play through stuff they'd never talk about publicly. And there's a receiver rumor being floated that if it ever became real, would immediately change how defenses have to play Drake May. Let's start with the part of the sport every fan hates admitting has teeth, but everyone feels in their gut when it shows up. It's not scheme, it's not talent, it's when the whistle becomes part of the game. And in the playoffs, that turns into gasoline on a fire. The talk around NFL officials is always loud during the regular season, but January makes it personal. Because you can't control it. You deal with it. You live with it. We've all seen it. One call flips momentum, flips your play selection, flips how aggressive you feel comfortable being. Commissioner Roger Goodell can say the refs are doing their best work right now. But if you're watching this league week after week, you know how fast one crew can become the headline instead of the teams. That's why it matters that Sean Smith has been assigned as the head official for Sunday's matchup. And no, I'm not going to pretend the refs won't show up, because they always show up in the postseason, whether anyone likes it or not. But there's a pattern with Smith's crew that could lean New England's way, as long as the Patriots handle it like adults. Over the 2025 season, Smith and his crew have flagged away teams more than home teams. 107 penalties on visitors, 80 on the home side. And guess who's home on Sunday? Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, our house. Then you've got this. Home teams have won 80% of the games he's worked. That doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't mean the game's decided before kickoff. It just shifts the feel a bit. It changes where the stress points live. And the takeaway is pretty straightforward. This isn't an invitation to play sloppy or push your luck. It's the opposite. It's a reminder to stay disciplined so the officiating doesn't get dragged into the storyline. Because the challenge is already heavy. New England is walking into this facing one of the most dominant defenses of the 2025 season. The Patriots do not need a third team on the field. So let me put it to you. Do you trust this group to keep a cool head and clean hands? No nonsense after the whistle. No lazy holds that wipe out a chunk play. No free 15 yards because somebody couldn't walk away. If the Patriots play smart, that season-long trend from this crew might quietly help instead of hurt. And when that happens, the pressure slides to the other sideline. Now, while the entire fan base is locked on Sunday, the front office is already staring down the next layer. Because by this point, you can separate what's temporary from what's structural. And one issue has been screaming for attention: getting to the quarterback. Not occasionally, not just when the matchup gifts it to you, consistently. The kind of pass rush that changes games even when it doesn't show up as a clean highlight. That's why it perked ears up when Dane Brugler of The Athletic dropped his first mock draft since the regular season ended and slotted Miami pass rusher Akeem Mesidor to the Patriots at pick 30. And before you stop cold at the age detail, hang on, because the logic here is pretty tight. Mesidor is older. He'll turn 25 in April. In a lot of situations, that's where you pause and go, okay, what's the catch? But the way Brugler framed it matters. This is a player who shouldn't need a long runway. You can hand him to Mike Vrabel, wind him up, and let him hunt on day one. And that lines up with what New England needs. The Patriots finished in the bottom third of the league in sacks and quarterback hits. And that's not a someday we'll get around to it issue if you want this defense dictating terms. Look at the production. Mesidor is in his 6th college season, his 4th year at Miami after 2 seasons at West Virginia. In 2025, He put up 10.5 sacks and 15.5 tackles for loss over 14 games, with one more game still sitting there, the national championship on Monday night. Over his career, it's 33.5 sacks in 64 games. That doesn't read like a fluky spike. That reads like a guy who understands timing, angles, and this part matters, how to finish. And here's a piece that gets glossed over. Miami is in the title hunt because their pass rush has been a real weapon, led by Mesidor and Ruben Bain Jr. That's not just beating up on weak opponents. That's producing when the other side knows what's coming and still can't fully stop it. From a team-building standpoint, New England should be thinking pass rusher with one of its first two picks. Mesidor wouldn't be some long-term developmental bet. He'd be immediate rotation with a legit path to a starting role. And on a Vrabel team, identity isn't a buzzword. It's the whole point. Be honest. Would you rather gamble on a younger name with potential? Or take the guy who looks ready to make quarterbacks uncomfortable right away? Because that answer tells you what kind of Patriots we're trying to be in 2026. And keep that in the back of your mind. Because what the team has been doing behind the scenes this week is a reminder that they're thinking about survival right now too, not just the future. This is where the sharper fans lean forward. January isn't only about stars, it's about depth. It's about whether your roster can hold up when nobody is fully healthy and every snap has weight. And the practice squad moves New England made over the past week weren't random, they were deliberate. Start with the exits. The Patriots released WR Brandon Smith, OT Sebastian Gutierrez, and DT Fabian Lovett from the practice squad. Nothing about that was shocking, especially because none of those guys had been elevated to the active roster this season. That's clearing space. That's creating flexibility. Then came the move that looks confusing if you don't follow roster mechanics. The team released RB Dearness Johnson from the active roster and brought him back to the practice squad. That's not disrespect. That's options. Johnson had been the third back behind injuries to Antonio Gibson and Terrell Jennings, and he'd also been working as the kick returner. The rushing numbers weren't pretty, 14 carries for 25 yards, but he averaged 25.6 yards per kick return. In the playoffs, having a familiar option available can matter fast. One tweak, one awkward landing, one short week, and suddenly you need someone you trust to just do the job. Now, the additions, that's where the board really starts to show itself. New England re-signed CB Miles Battle to the practice squad after releasing him last week. He's already appeared in 5 games for the Patriots this season, and with Christian Gonzalez in concussion protocol, it wouldn't surprise anyone if Battle gets elevated for Sunday. In the postseason, knowing where to line up and what the call means is half the battle. And trust is everything. To fill more practice squad openings, the Patriots signed OT Lawrence Metz, WR Trent Sherfield, and edge defender Darrell Taylor. Metz is more of a longer view move, 28 years old, entered the league in 2023 with the Bears after playing at Cincinnati, a German international who's 6'9" and 335 pounds. That's not a normal frame. That's a circle this guy for next preseason kind of body type. Sherfield and Taylor, though, are the ones who could actually matter during a playoff run. Sherfield is 29. He played in 12 games with the Broncos and Cardinals and finished with 3 catches for 21 yards. But his best season came in 2022 with the Dolphins. 30 catches, 417 yards, 2 touchdowns. Career totals, 89 catches for 1,034 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's not flashy. He's not supposed to be. He's functional, he's been around, and when you're navigating late-season wear and tear, functional can be the difference between a clean rep and a busted one. And then there's Darrell Taylor, the name in this batch that spikes the tension. Former second-round pick, 48th overall in the 2020 draft. He had a productive early run with Seattle, 21.5 sacks across his first 3 seasons, including 9.5 in 2022. Then it got messy. He was traded to the Bears after Mike McDonald was hired. opened week 1 with 2 sacks and a forced fumble, and couldn't stick. He didn't record another sack in 2024. He signed with the Texans this year and played 4 games. He was waived off Houston's IR list earlier this week, and Ian Rappaport noted there's a strong chance he gets elevated for Sunday against his former team. Think about that for a second. A pass rusher with something to prove. In a revenge spot. In a playoff game where one pressure, one strip sack, one 3rd and long stop can swing the whole night. The Patriots don't need him to be a superstar. They need him to be a hunter at the right moment. None of these moves will win the news cycle, but playoffs aren't won by winning the news cycle. They're won on margins. And this is New England stacking margins. And if you've been with me through all of that, here's where the conversation jumps up a level. Because once you believe you've found your franchise quarterback, the organization's clock changes. The window opens, and suddenly big swings don't feel reckless. They feel like the next logical step. Drake May looks like the real deal, not just surviving, but growing. And that puts the Patriots in a strong position this offseason to chase top-end talent, especially at wide receiver. The question isn't whether New England should add help. It's which move actually fits. That's why the A.J. Brown rumor hit the way it did. Adam Schefter, an ESPN NFL insider, mentioned New England as a genuine landing spot for Brown, saying he can see Brown playing in New England next year under head coach Mike Vrabel, and that it would make a lot of sense. Nothing's confirmed. Nobody's stamping it as done, but it's being discussed in a way that connects real dots. And those dots are real. Brown spent 3 seasons with Vrabel in Tennessee before the Titans traded him to the Eagles during the 2022 NFL Draft. That history matters. That familiarity matters. In this league, relationships can open doors that otherwise stay shut. Brown is 28, and his 4 seasons in Philadelphia have included both highs and lows. He played a huge role in getting the Eagles to 2 Super Bowls, including last season's win over the Kansas City Chiefs. But this year, the production dipped. 78 receptions for 1,003 yards and 7 touchdowns. Still solid. Still valuable. Just not the same A.J. Brown takes over your Sunday level we've gotten used to. If Philadelphia ever decides to make Brown available in a trade, the Patriots should be one of the first teams picking up the phone. Because a true number 1 receiver doesn't just add catches. He dictates coverage. He changes the defensive game plan. He creates space for everyone else. He turns red zone snaps into touchdowns instead of field goals. He turns 3rd and long into something you feel like you can attack instead of survive. Now, picture Drake May with a target like that. A receiver who's played in massive games, who understands playoff football, who can win one-on-one and punish soft zones. That changes the offense's rhythm. It changes chemistry. It changes confidence. It changes how an opponent prepares all week. And that's why this rumor lands the way it does. It fits the moment. New England isn't just building anymore. It's choosing when to strike. So when you stack it all up, an officiating setup that might not get in the way, a pass rush plan being mapped out, quiet depth moves that could matter when the roster is worn down, and a star receiver idea being floated that could turbocharge Drake May, you start to see the shape of where this could be headed. Now I've got to ask you, do you want New England to go all in right now? Or do you still play it cautious and wait another year? Drop your take in the comments, because I already know this one is going to split the room. And if you're riding with Patriots Nation through this playoff push and into the offseason chess match, hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because Foxborough is starting to feel awake again.